All right. Let me say good morning to you once again. My name is Richard Marshall. I am the director for the Housing Choice Voucher Program for Oklahoma City Housing Authority. I have been with the Oklahoma City Housing Authority for over 32 years. I've been in the business for almost 38 years. I started out with the Oklahoma Housing Finance Agency and made it a career in the subsidized housing field. I want to welcome each of you as our landlord partners into the program. We appreciate you very much. As you know, the program can't work without customers, and we consider you one of our customers. It's a three-way partnership, and we can't do it without you. And we want you to know that we value what you do and what you provide for the citizens of Oklahoma City. You will be hearing mostly from Mr. Charles Parks today, who's the assistant director for the program. There will be several videos embedded into the class. It will be not to the point to where it will cause you to go to sleep. So they're only about a few minutes long. So we encourage you to pay attention to those and it will help you learn. Thank you for sticking with us through COVID. We know that COVID has been a big concern for yourselves, for us, for our clients that we serve. We had an opportunity to waive a lot of things related to the program during the COVID pandemic, but we chose not to do that. As you know, our inspectors have continued to inspect your properties. That kept us on track. Otherwise, we would have been way behind on inspections and having to come out more than what we do now. So we appreciate you working with us on that. Also, most of you probably have talked to one time or another Christy Doherty. She's on the line with us today too. And then also another staff person may or may not be on, but her name is Brittany. She handles your checks and anything that questions you may have, she will take care of that for you. You're going to learn a lot today about some of the other things that we do at the Housing Authority as far as our special programs are concerned. You're going to learn a lot about what we're doing now, as most of you already know, with technology. As we know, it's the way of the future and has been here for some time. We want you to know that we're issuing vouchers right now too. Some of you probably have had calls and maybe some new tenants coming to you from our wait list. For the first time since I've been in the business, we've got more money to spend than we ever have. Right now, we've got in excess of $30 million to spend on the program. So we want to make sure that we get that spent. I want to encourage you to visit our website to learn more about what we do as well. That's the Oklahoma City Housing Authority. You can go to what's called leased housing and then click on landlord information. And that will give you a lot of information about what your responsibilities are, what the program's about, and it'll also direct you to some other links as to help you glean some information about what's going on across the nation, as well as in Congress. I want to thank Bob AI, and you'll hear more about them as we go along. They're a new information technology group that we have contracted with to help us do our jobs. So we appreciate them and all that they do for us as well. Also, I want to hear from you. My direct line phone number is 405-605-3251. 405-605-3251. And my email address is rmarshall, MARSHALL, at oceannet.org. And you'll notice that that has been posted in the chat for you. And then finally, we are discussing how to, or if to, open back up to the public. We know that digital divide can be a concern for some of our customers who don't have access to the internet. Some don't have computers, and we know that that can be an issue. We know that there are times when you as our partner landlords want to get something handled immediately. So we're taking all of that into consideration as we contemplate and decide when and if and how open to the public we're going to be. But that is under discussion as we speak. But we will definitely continue to keep our eyes on what's going on with the virus. And we're real careful with that. And we're trying our best to keep everyone around us, not just ourselves and our staff, but our customers as well, safe. So with that in mind, I thank you for joining us today. I appreciate all that you do as our partners. And once again, let me hear from you. Thank you very much. And now I'll turn it over to Mr. Charles Parks.
Good morning. How's everyone doing? So we got a agenda that we're going to go through. You heard from our director. And we're going to give you some general information about the Housing Authority and about the program that we operate here. We're going to talk about Bob AI that has really become intricate and doing a lot of online stuff and is going to help us hopefully get everything done quicker for you. We're going to talk about the online request for tenancy approval submissions that are now active in Bob. We're going to talk about the emergency housing vouchers. I know that you've heard about that through local media. We're going to talk to you about our role in that. And then we're going to answer, take some questions and answers. And if you will, as we go along, put those in the chat. When we get to that portion, then we will take those and try to answer everything we can for you. So just as we go along, that way you don't have to remember them, just put them in the chat. Christy is going to be monitoring that for us. So we'll go along. So we're going to show a video, share a short video with you about the Oklahoma City Housing Authority and a message from our executive director.
A safe, comfortable, and affordable home is part of the foundation of the American dream. Unfortunately, housing is out of the reach of many. That's why an organization like the Oklahoma City Housing Authority is an important part of our community.
My name is Christy, and I'm a survivor of breast cancer, domestic violence, and homelessness. I was in danger, and I had no choice but to leave. I had my car and maybe a change of clothes. I literally was sleeping in my car in Walmart parking lots. Public housing has given me a place where I can feel safe, a place where I can heal, and a place where I can grow. This has been a lifesaver.
Our mission at the Oklahoma City Housing Authority is to provide affordable, decent, safe, and sanitary housing or housing assistance with quality environments and opportunities for residents of Oklahoma City.
Well, I didn't have a stable home. The longest place I spent was at Ambassador Courts, the public housing. You do not understand the impact of housing until you don't have it. I didn't know who I was. That kind of affects you as a child. And I'm very thankful for what the Oklahoma City Housing Authority did for me. And I am so thankful for what I can do for others by working here. I want people to have big dreams, and housing helps you do that.
Since 1965, we have doubled our housing units to over 3,000, and we assist an additional 4,200 residents through Section 8 housing vouchers. Welcome to the Oklahoma City Housing Authority, where it's all about people.
So that is an overview of our housing authority. We actually are the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And so the Housing Choice Voucher Program, everyone commonly knows it as Section 8. Section 8 actually comes from the section of the Code of Federal Regulations that oversee us. So we provide assistance to very low income individuals and families We enable them to afford decent, safe, and sanitary housing. And in the private rental housing market. So the Housing Choice Voucher Program was created by the Housing and Community Development Act of 1974. We are totally funded by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. We receive no state funding or city funding, even though we are called the Oklahoma City Housing Authority. So you heard our executive director say we have over 4,200 vouchers. That is increased since we've made that film. And so we kind of want to give you an idea of how many vouchers we have and what types of vouchers that we run. So we have 3,400 tenant-based vouchers. So that's most of the vouchers that are divided between our everyday families and disabled families. And then we have 421 project-based vouchers. Those vouchers are actually attached to units that are, if anyone knows where the village of Oakwood is, it's those type. We also have 281 Veterans Affairs supporting housing. That is for homeless veterans, and those are referred to us from the Veterans Administration. We also have 251 mainstream vouchers and 250 near elderly disabled vouchers. So those two types of vouchers are for disabled folks. We also have 61 family reunification program vouchers, and those vouchers are for those folks that are in the Department of Human Services Family Reunification Program. And most of you should understand now what that's about. We have 32 home ownership vouchers. Several years ago, we had a home ownership program. Numerous tenants purchased homes under this program. And as of today, we have about 32 of those families left that are still in the process of completing that program. And then just recently, as we just said, we received 36 emergency housing vouchers. Mr. Marshall talked to you toward the end of the program about those. So totally, our housing authority here has 4,732 vouchers that we administer. So that's quite a bit. Our area of operation is totally within the city limits of Oklahoma City. Any place in the light blue areas, those of you that are familiar with the city limits know that they're spread out throughout 3 different counties. We don't service anything Del City, Midwest City, Moore, Edmond. There are places in Yukon that the city limits run into, Bethany, War Acres, those areas we cannot service due to our regulations. So how does the Housing Choice Voucher Program work? So there are 3 bi-party relationships when you look at it as a whole. And we want to explain these because a lot of times we kind of get confused about what those are. So we have ourselves, OCHA, and then we have our tenant. And so we have a contract with that tenant, which is called the voucher. And you've seen the voucher. Well, they sign that, and it is a contract that they have with us that they're going to do what they need to do to make sure they remain on the program. And then we have a relationship with you, our landlords. And that contract is called a HAP contract, which you all sign when you get a tenant in your unit. And that just says that you're going to do what you're required to do and that we're going to do what we're supposed to do for you to get paid. And then the third way is a contract between you and the tenant, and that's the lease. So OCHA is not party to the lease. You are not party to the voucher between us and the tenant, and the tenant is not part of the HAP contract between us and you, with the exception of the residential part of it. And that's part of the back page that you receive. So It's a triangle. We hope you understand it. So we're going to talk about Bob for a little while now. Bob is our new online application. And we say it's new. You've been using it for a while, but we're integrating new things all the time. Bob is very interested in moving forward and getting new things that's required just to make everybody's job easier. So we appreciate that. So we're going to look at just a real quick video about the overview of Bob and how you can manage and operate through it.
In this video, we are going to give a general overview of Bob AI. This is the home screen of Bob AI. All of the apps that you will have access to will be listed here. One app that everybody has is My Account. If your relationship is already set, the screen will look like this. Landlords don't necessarily need a relationship to an agency. You can submit a eRFTA without a relationship. And if your unit is rented, then your relationship to that agency will be automatically set. If your relationship is not set, My Account will appear in red letters. If you have a unit already rented, you want to set the relationship. The easiest way to establish your relationship to an agency is to enter the relationship code. Your PHA usually provides this to you by email or sometimes by postal mail. As a landlord, it is important that your industry is selected as landlord or real estate professional, here under business relationship. You should also select your role accurately. Selecting the right role here is very important. Maintenance technicians in your organization will not have access to the Manage eRFTA, for example. You can invite your coworkers here. Multifamily property managers should invite rental managers and maintenance technicians for the full experience. You can add their name, email, select their role, and enter other details about them. You can also set up their contact information, such as name, phone numbers, and address. You will see these details here. And if you are connected through Google or Facebook logins, you will see that here. On the left side of the home page, you will have an option to chat with other users. You can search for a person. You can see their contact information or click to chat with them. Or you can see all of the group chats that you worked with in the past. All the group chats, all the eRFTA groups, all the cases, everything will be inside Conversations. And some of the options that you have here includes List My Unit. You can click that to list the units you have. Rental Leads is where you can see all the vouchers and chats with My Case Manager. You can always click this button to chat with your case manager. If you click it, it will open a pop-up window like this. You can select the reason for the chat and submit. After that, you can send a message to your case manager and they will respond. There is an Inspections app where you can view all of your inspections. This is where you can reschedule them, confirm them, etc. In Manage eRFTA, you can go through all of your eRFTAs that you have in progress and submit for the PHA to approve. All of the apps have these question marks in the top left corner. You can always click them to see the detail of what that app does.
Okay, so we're going to move right along. That's and we're going to talk about the eRFTA, as they call it, electronic request for tenancy approval that you send into our agency to get your new prospective tenants an inspection. And so we're going to talk about that. So it's a new technology, and this allows you to match with potential voucher holders. So every time we issue vouchers, there's an automatic process that tells Bob that this particular tenant has a voucher and gives them the information about those vouchers. And then that can be completed online without having to print it out or write it out. And again, you can communicate with us through that online chat feature. It may take us a few minutes to get back to you when that's going on, but just give us a minute. We'll get with you as soon as possible. To get to Bob, you can register at bob.ai if you're not already there. It's real simple. Just go to bob.ai and click the register button. So this is talking about listing your units with Bob. And so this will help the system automatically match some of those voucher holders with your unit type. And if it matches up, if they've got a 2-bedroom and you've got a 2-bedroom, it's going to be able to do that. It's also going to check on the affordability test for your unit, which we do manually now. When you send that in, it will be done automatically by the system. And then those tenants will be notified when you list a new unit that matches their voucher. So they'll always have that information going on. So we're going to look at the second Bob video.
When you click on the List My Unit icon, it takes you to this page and you can list your vacant units anywhere in the United States here. If you have listed units in the past, you can click on one of the existing floor plans and select it, or you can add a new one. You can enter the rent amount here. For example, I will enter $1,200 for the monthly rent amount. If you allow pets, select Yes, and then you can add all the needed details. If not, you would select No. Next is designating who is listing the unit, either the agent or the owner. In this case, I am the owner of the unit. But agents can also list the unit and find renters for them. I'm adding a 2-bedroom unit in Riverside located on Cypress Boulevard, house number 8953, Dallas with a zip code 75019. Then the general information about the unit is added. I will click Next and move on to this part, which is the utilities and appliances. First, select the structural type, and then you can enter information about the utilities and appliances. For example, this is a single-family unit. And then select the type of heating and cooking. For this unit, the heating and water heating are natural gas, but the cooking is electric. You can also select who is paying for each of the utilities, the owner or the tenant. In this case, the owner pays for water, sewer, and trash collection. You can also designate if the appliances are provided by the owner or the tenant. In this case, the refrigerator is not provided by the owner, but the range or microwave is provided. After you edit all the details about the unit, you can click on Submit and save your floor plan. We recommend that multifamily property managers input the same floor plan names you use internally so your colleagues can recognize it later. Now the system will look for all the vouchers that are listed with Bob AI, and it will provide the number of vouchers that are a match for this unit. Now, At the moment, there are 16 renters on Bob AI that can afford this unit. The next step is to message one of those renters, and we can also request them to disclose their phone number and email address. Just note that this still needs to pass the rent reasonableness check. All of the units that you see here are affordable for those vouchers, so you can click View All Matched Renters. Now this will open those 16 clients. You can see here what agency provides those vouchers and how long they will remain valid. You can see the number of bedrooms and the number of the renter. In this case, it's hidden unless they decide that they want to share those details with you. We can see that they have all been contacted, meaning they all received messages via email and/or their mobile app from Bob AI, alerting them that there is a new unit that's affordable for them. You can contact each of these through the group chat. Note that if they have shared their contact information, you will see that here, or you can use the group chat to chat with them. Their case manager is also included in the group chat, so group chat consists of a landlord, the client or tenant, and their case manager.
So that's the way you list your unit. If at any time that you're having questions or anything after this is over with or on down the line, you can contact our office. We can help you out with that. So we're going to talk briefly about rent reasonableness. So when a request for tenancy approval is processed, a rent reasonableness analysis is performed to determine if the proposed rent is reasonable compared to the housing markets. There's a database of rent comparisons provided by HUD through algorithms by regulation, and that's how it's compared to proposed rent to 3 unassisted units that are in the same area and the same amenities that the unit you're trying to rent. So those have to be unassisted. They cannot be assisted by OFA or anything else. If a unit is above the market price of the area, it may not be approved. It will usually, we can tell you the rental amount that you can charge to make it affordable for that person. So it doesn't have to end there. You can contact us. The program can tell you how much they can afford also. So you can appeal that to us, but you must submit 3 local listings that's in the area with the same amenities and very similar to your unit, and we will look at that. Okay, it's not something that we just say no and don't ever revisit. So these are the things that we take in consideration: location and size, the unit type, the housing services, the age of the property, the quality, the amenities, the market conditions, verifiable contract rent. So what we mean by that is that there's a lot of times that you'll see out on the market, and we're going to see advertisement for a unit for X amount of rent, but that doesn't always come to by that when the lease is signed, that's the current rent. So we want to see what the contract rent is. Again, other comparable rentals, if there's any maintenance or utilities paid and provided by the owner, we look at those also. So when we look at to see if it's affordable, we have to make sure that it follows this rule. So program participant portion of the rent and utilities may not exceed 40% of the family's income. So whatever utilities they have, we have a utility allowance sheet. And so you've got to take those utility allowances that the tenant pays. You're going to add those together and add it to the rent that you're asking for the unit. And then one thing, they can't go over the payment standard that we have set, and it cannot exceed 40% of their income. So, and that's all prefigured, and that's one reason it may tell you that that unit is not affordable for that tenant because it exceeds the 40% rule. So Bob's checking that, and that's one of the things that they just showed you that said there's 5 renters that can afford your unit. So what they're doing is they're saying that based on the utilities they pay, the rent you're asking, that they can afford it, doesn't mean that it is rent reasonable. Just means that they can afford it. So they still have to do the rent reasonableness. So, and basically it's going to match you up to those people. So we will tell you that if a tenant has no income, that will not exceed 30% of their income. So there is some differences there. Not going to get into that. That's a whole another story. But if a tenant does not have verifiable income, then it will not exceed 30% of their income. So the request for tenancy process. So once you've decided to rent to a family with a voucher, you're going to create and submit an electronic request for tenancy on Bob AI. So Bob AI will automatically fill in part of that request for tenancy with the information that you provided on the unit. And then it's going to message a tenant once that's completed to sign that request for tenancy, and then it'll be submitted. So we're going to look at 3 videos now, and they're going to run you through and show you how to create the request for tenancy. Give me just a second here.
This is the Manage RAFTA app. Here you can see all of the RAFTAs that you have in progress or the ones that are already approved. You can see the RAFTA number here, the date it was created, the address that you listed, the name of the client, the agency that issued the voucher, and the current status of the voucher. You can click here to turn the filters on. If you want to search by RAFTA number, creation date, or anything else, in the status field, you can see, for example, how many RAFTAs you have in draft, meaning you have to complete the documentation. You can see the RAFTAs that you approved that you have submitted, or the ones that have been returned to you. You can search by the name of the client or any other name. For example, like I'm entering here. You can also sort by date, ID number, or address of the unit. You can also message the renter at any time. You can click here and send a message to the renter, and the case manager will see this also. And then, the very important button is Create RAFTA. You can create the RAFTA for any agency in the USA. Enter the name of the agency, and you can select from the list. Then enter the name of the voucher holder. Now, I can list the unit that I have agreed to work on with this client. I can select any existing plan that I've listed in the past, or I can list a unit with a new plan. So let me list the new unit and enter the rent that I want for the unit. Do you allow pets? I can select yes or no. If yes, I will enter the details about any restrictions and what is allowed. Then I can select if I'm the agent or the owner, filling in the documentation. In this case, I'm the owner, and I'm listing a 2-bedroom unit in my Riverside property. The unit number is 26. The city is Sacramento. The state is California, and the zip code is 95814. Then I will click Next and select the structure type of the unit. In this case, it is a detached house. Here I can select who pays for what services, the owner or the tenant. For example, heating is natural gas paid by the tenant. Cooking is electric paid by the tenant. Water heating is natural gas and paid by the tenant, with the owner paying for water, sewer, and trash collection. As for the appliances, the refrigerator is provided by the owner, but the range microwave is provided by the tenant. After you have completed this, you can click on Next and begin signing all the documents electronically. The full RAFTA package consists of 6 forms. You can save incomplete forms. However, the form has to be complete before you can sign. When all forms are completed and signed, you can submit the RAFTA. That will automatically send an email to the client to sign. The client cannot edit the RAFTA. If they need changes made, they will return the RAFTA back to you. When the client signs, the RAFTA will be submitted to the Landlord Services team. If they approve the RAFTA, then initial inspections will be scheduled. If you are a new vendor to the agency, your relationship to the agency will also be established automatically. So, let's start looking at all forms. By my signature below, I, Milan J., am the owner of this property. I need to disclose if I am related or not related to this client. If I am related, then I should know that there is a relationship conflict. In this case, I am not related and I can sign the form. So after I have added my name, signed and dated, then I will save this form. This will take me to the next document. Please note that not all the documents will be the same, as these are different based on the PHA that you're working with. For example, in this case, we have a RAFTA supplemental form for some of the other PHAs. This may be called an additional amenities form. Here, I will again select the dwelling type. The unit condition is good. Number of bedrooms are copied from the My Unit form. The number of bathrooms is 1. The year built is 2000. The census tract is a field that will be populated automatically later. Now, I will select the amenities. For example, garbage disposal, garage, laundry facilities, etc. Does the landlord provide services or not? You can select all of these items and sign this form. Once you sign the form, it will be locked. If you need to make edits, then click on the Unlock button at the top of the screen. The signatures will be removed, and then you will have to sign again after the edits are completed. The reason for this is to ensure that the RFTA package is complete. Now I will sign this form and save it. After this, we can go back to this document and see how locking and unlocking works. This form that was just completed is called a supplemental form and is now locked. This means I cannot change anything on that form. It is ready to be submitted. If you want to unlock and edit the form, just note that the signatures will be removed. If you want to proceed, select Yes, and you can update the form and sign it again. If not, you would select the No button. So let's continue signing the documentation. One other form that is required is the owner verification form, or vendor verification, depending again on the PHA. This form states who the owner is, who the payee is, and in case you are an agent, you will need to fill in the authorized agent or agency portion, then the landlord's certification section, and then sign the form. If an authorized agent is completing this, you will provide the management agreement as an attachment. I will now pause briefly and fill in all the fields. After you fill in everything, you will sign this form. Now, this is telling me to fill in all the required fields, which means that some of the fields are not completed. You will be able to scroll back and see which field is missing. For example, here the phone number is missing. I will now edit it. Please note that in the Payee section, it is crucial to provide the same information that you have in the W-9. If the information is different, your RFTA will be returned back to you. After I edit this field, I will be able to sign the document. As for electronic signature, the question is, are you sure you want to apply your signature to this document? The electronic signature will have the same legal effect as the handwritten signature. Once you confirm that you agree to sign electronically, you can sign and enter the date. Again, this part needs to be filled in if you are an authorized agent. After this, we will move to the direct deposit form. This form again is based on the PHA that has the voucher holder. In this example, the direct deposit form needs to be done on an external platform. And all the instructions are here. For some customers, the form needs to be downloaded. You have the download button here. Once the form is complete and locked, click the download button, and it will download the form directly from your browser. After that, you can continue. All the details about required forms are added in the additional documents. For example, here you have the RFTA cover page and instructions that you can click to open in another tab. You can also download the W-9, complete it, and upload it. Some PHAs also require the inspection readiness checklist, and some require the direct deposit form. If an authorized agent is submitting the RFTA on behalf of an owner, they must ensure that they upload a signed management agreement with the owner's signature. The way to upload the document is to select the type of document you're uploading, such as the management agreement, the direct deposit form, or the rental agreement. For example, I will now upload the W-9. I will select it, find it on my personal computer, and start uploading. Once the form is uploaded, you can select Next to continue. You will see, based on this blue color, that all the documentation is filled in, and you can start filling in the request for tenancy approval. Most of the fields are already populated based on your answers from before. You will need to fill in the requested lease start date and enter the security deposit amount. Another field is when will the unit be available for inspection. This is an important field because, based on this response, your inspection will be scheduled, so you should put the date when the unit will be ready. After that, you will select the structure type. If the unit is subsidized, you should select which type. All the utilities are already populated from your answers before. You cannot change them from here. You would need to go back to your unit section and update them there. Also, you need to check one of the following answers based on lead paint disclosure and common areas. You can read the instructions and select if any of these apply. And the last step is to sign the documents. This is the name, the business address, and the telephone number. You need to put in the date and sign the document. As I said before, you can save your work at any time. Then once you have signed the form, it is ready for submission. After this, you can submit the eRFTA package. If there is anything wrong with the eRFTA package, you should see an error in the top right corner if you are missing any documents. Let's go back and make sure that all of the fields here are blue and that everything is uploaded in the additional documents as the PHA requires. After you have that, you can click on Submit the eRFTA package. Then it will go to the client, and the client can sign from their side and submit. Then, the PHA will review and approve. Next time you create the eRFTA for any agency, most of your data and attachments will be reused, making the process much easier for you. Thank you.
Okay, so that explained that part of it. So once we get the eRFTA, we're going to make sure a few things happens that the software doesn't do. Number one, your property taxes have to be paid. The rent is reasonable. Security deposit is approvable in accordance with our state law. The owner is approvable, and there are no conflicts of interest. So one, we check to make sure you're not banned from doing any business with federal housing, and if there's any conflicts of interest. The family share rent and utilities not exceed 40% of their income, and at the time of the inspection, it must meet HUD's housing quality standards. So once the request for tenancy hits our office, it's about a 2 to 3 week process. Once it's completed, we will schedule a unit inspection with you, or Bob actually will. Right now, we're about 2 weeks out on inspections for initials, so we're getting out there. Once we notify you of that date and time, you also need to notify the tenant. Bob will notify the tenant, but that's not an assurance that they will get the information. If the request for tenancy is not complete, then we will notify you what we need in regards to completing that. So tenant move-ins, we run into some. Move-in dates are decided between you and the tenant. Preferably most of the time that it happens is the same day that we pass the unit on inspection and then the lease and the HAP contract signed. it can be after that. We discourage families from moving into properties prior to a past HQS inspection. And that just keeps all of us together and hopefully lessens any problems that would cause if they did move in before it passed. And we cannot pay any rent until it passes inspection. So the housing assistance payment. The landlord is paid after the inspection passes and all other criteria have been met. So we're going to discuss this just a little bit. So once it passes inspection, you've signed all the paperwork, it comes to our office. Christy, that's on the call with us, she is the quality control specialist. She's going to review that paperwork, make sure it's in compliance with everything that we need. And then we have to do a lot of in the computer work to get it ready to be paid. That can take up to 60 days before you get your first payment. It does not mean we're not going to pay you. It means we're going to pay you at around 60 days back to the date that it passed inspection and the tenant moved in. So we're not going to cheat you out of any money. So again, contracts activated after the first payment's released after that contract is signed and the lease has been signed. We do have some issues every once in a while that something will come in on the lease that can't be there. We'll send notification out that we need that corrected. We cannot pay you until that correction's been made and sent back to our office. And the lease has to comply with state law. Also have to be direct deposit, has to be signed up. And all your payments after the initial period are made on the 5th day of the month. And then we make adjustments for you, holidays and stuff. So I'm gonna let Mr. Marshall take over and he's gonna talk to you about the emergency housing vouchers that we have.
Okay, so Congress, as we all know, has been throwing a lot of money at different agencies, different programs around the nation due to COVID. And one of the things that they did was they funded 70,000 vouchers in the country for emergency housing choice program for emergency housing reasons. We received 36 of those vouchers that are going to be effective on July the 1st. We have to partner with the city of Oklahoma City through their Continuum of Care program. We've got the memorandum of understanding in place. We've already got our waiting list open for these customers. And so we will begin housing them as soon as we can. Here are the eligibility criteria for that program. Most of it is tied towards homeless. Those who are homeless, risk of homelessness, or recently homeless. But I'd like to draw your attention also to bullet number 3 is for those that are fleeing, attempting to flee domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, stalking, or human trafficking. I don't know about you, but I've seen a rash in the number of domestic violence issues in the country lately. As you know, some of you probably have tenants that are dealing with that. You should know that if you have a client that is subject to any of those domestic violence issues, that we have a form that we send to them that they can complete and send it to me. And I make the call, and sometimes the tenant has to move immediately. Be aware that Oklahoma has a law now coming up that you can't hold against them for moving due to domestic violence. But that will also qualify them for this program too. And we are seeking, and many of you as landlords, to help house this population as we can. Now, here's a key to the program. Congress has attached service fees to all of these vouchers. We haven't made the final decision yet on how we're going to handle those, but I'm sure we will be assisting these families with deposits, moving expenses, security deposits, electrical deposits, what have you, to make sure that they can get moved in as quickly as possible. So if you're interested in that, I'd like to know so that we can add your name to the list that I'm going to be compiling for those landlords who are wanting to support this program. The families will have case management, and it's our hope that that ongoing case management will help them be more stable. And so we encourage you to help us as we help these families along the way with their emergency housing needs. And Charles, I'll go ahead and talk about that next item if you don't mind. So all of you should know by now that the CDC eviction moratorium is scheduled to expire June 30th. I have received very few concerns from our tenants about their rent. And I haven't heard from any of you as landlords much either. We have notified you about some information that's available through the Community Cares program to help families who are behind on rent as a result of COVID. If you've got issues with that, please let me know. And also I'd like to know how the eviction moratorium expiration is going to impact your operations. So if you don't mind sharing some of that information with me, I would really appreciate it. That concludes our presentation, and we're down to questions and answers. We know that many of those, if you've been paying attention to the chat, have been answered along the way. But at this point, do we have any questions, Christy or Joy, that you see that have not been answered?
Yes, I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
Says, I have 7 units that are part of the Home Funds program. Does the Bob platform work for this program outside of listing the units here? Does Bob take the place of the HUD income calculator?
So Charles, would you know that the affordability calculation is what we are talking about, or is it something else?
I think what they're asking is the rent, home rents, if I'm not mistaken.
But Joy, that's a part of the continuum of care program.
So, but the affordability calculation is still 30-40 rule, right? Or is it something else?
It should be the same.
Amy, we believe we have been talking to the COCs too, and what we are learning is the calculation is the same, but we are not 100% sure. So let us get back to you.
Other questions, Christy?
Not that were sent directly to me. We can go over the other ones that were sent and answered in the chat, just in case anybody didn't see them if we want.
Okay, please.
Okay. We don't have a pet deposit or pet rent, just a one-time pet fee that is non-refundable. How is this going to be handled in Bob?
So Milan, do you want to answer that question? Oh, I think he's not listening. So
Okay.
I think the difference here is this is not refundable, right? So I think the question is, right now, if you say it is a pet deposit, people might think that it is going to be refunded, but in this particular situation, it is not refundable. So we don't have a field which says that the deposit is not refundable or refundable. That functionality is not there right now. So the landlord will have to mention that in the chat.
Okay. Another question. I am a broker and we do leasing for other landlords. Are my agents allowed to do the lease, sign as a representative?
Yes.
Yes, we currently allow agents to sign as representatives as well.
And they have to attach the management agreement. So that's the difference.
Yeah. And I think that was all the questions. I don't see any more coming in.
Okay, once again, we thank you. We've tried to keep this to within an hour. Now we're just right on 60 minutes as we end now. once again, I encourage you to reach out to us if you have any additional questions or comments. And once again, I'd like to hear from you. Thank you, Charles and Christy and Brittany and Bajoy and Millen for assisting us with this today. And we thank you, landlords, for all that you do. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.